Every image format's explained RAW is exactly what its name suggests. Raw, untouched image data straight from your camera's sensor. Before RAW became popular, photographers mostly saved their pictures as JPEGs. The problem was that JPEG compressed every image to save space, which meant your camera quietly threw away details before you even touched the photo. Professional photographers hated that, so camera manufacturers introduced RAW, allowing cameras to save almost everything the sensor captured. Instead of a finished image, you get something closer to a digital negative. It looks dull, flat, and sometimes even disappointing at first, but that's completely normal. The real magic happens during editing. Because RAW keeps far more color and lighting information than JPEG, photographers can brighten dark photos, recover blown-out skies, fix white balance, and edit shadows without destroying image quality. That's why wedding photographers, wildlife photographers, filmmakers, and professionals almost always shoot in RAW. Of course, there's a catch. RAW files are huge. One photo can easily take up 30 to 80 megabytes, sometimes even more depending on the camera. Fill up your storage fast enough and suddenly your memory card starts judging your life choices. And unlike JPEG, you usually can't upload RAW files directly to Instagram, WhatsApp, or most websites. They almost always need editing and exporting first. JPEG arrived in 1992, and if there were a Hall of Fame for image formats, this one would probably get its own statue. Back then, internet speeds were painfully slow. Downloading a single high-quality image could take several minutes over dial-up, and websites filled with giant photos simply weren't practical. So the Joint Photographic Experts Group created JPEG, a format that dramatically reduced file sizes by compressing images. Here's the clever part. JPEG throws away tiny details your eyes usually won't notice. That's why a 15 megabyte photo can suddenly shrink to just 2 megabytes, while still looking almost identical. The downside is that every time you save a JPEG again, it loses a little more quality. Save it once, looks fine. Save it 20 times, your family photo starts looking like it survived 5 generations of photocopiers. JPEG also doesn't support transparent backgrounds, which is why logos saved as JPG often end up sitting inside awkward white boxes. Even today, JPEG remains one of the most widely used image formats on Earth because for everyday photos, it's still one of the best balances between quality and file size. PNG was introduced in 1996, and it quickly became one of the most important image formats ever created. It was designed as a free alternative to another format called GIF. Don't worry, we'll explain that one in just a moment. But unlike JPEG, PNG wasn't focused on making photos smaller. Instead, it was all about preserving image quality. PNG uses lossless compression, meaning it reduces file size without throwing away any image data. You can save the same PNG over and over again, and it'll still look exactly the same. But the feature that really made PNG famous was transparency. Instead of forcing a white background behind your image, PNG lets parts of the picture stay completely transparent. GIF. Now let's talk about the format we mentioned earlier. It was introduced in 1987, making it one of the oldest image formats still used today. Back then, internet speeds were painfully slow, so developers needed a format that could display colorful images without taking forever to load. The biggest thing that made GIF special wasn't image quality, it was animation. Instead of showing just one picture, a GIF could play multiple frames in a continuous loop. Suddenly, websites had animated logos, flashing banners, dancing stick figures, and eventually, every reaction meme you've ever spammed in a group chat. There's just one catch. GIF only supports 256 colors, while modern image formats can display millions. That's why GIFs often look grainy or have weird color banding, especially when compared to videos or PNG images. Even after almost 40 years, GIF refuses to disappear. It may not be the most efficient format anymore, but when it comes to memes and reaction images, it's still the king of the internet. WebP was introduced by Google in 2010, and its mission was simple: make the internet faster. By then, websites were packed with high-resolution images, and every extra megabyte meant slower loading times, especially for people on mobile data or slower internet connections. Instead of creating just another image format, Google combined the best features of existing ones. WebP can use lossy compression like JPEG for smaller photos, lossless compression like PNG to preserve quality, supports transparent backgrounds, and even animations, replacing GIFs in many cases. The biggest advantage is its file size. A WebP image is often 25 to 35% smaller than a JPEG with similar quality, while lossless WebP can be around 20 to 30% smaller than PNG. That means websites load faster, use less bandwidth, and give visitors a smoother experience. TIFF, or Tagged Image File Format, was introduced in 1986, and unlike JPEG or PNG, it was never meant for everyday users. It was designed for professionals who needed the highest image quality possible, even if it meant dealing with massive file sizes. Instead of heavily compressing images, TIFF can store them with little or even no compression, preserving every tiny detail. If you've ever seen a giant billboard or a magazine cover that still looks incredibly sharp up close, there's a good chance a TIFF file was involved somewhere in the process. The downside is storage. A single TIFF image can easily be hundreds of megabytes, so filling your hard drive happens surprisingly fast. Sharing them online isn't much fun either. Sending a folder of TIFF files can feel like asking your internet to lift weights. ICO is probably the image format you see the most, but almost nobody talks about it. It was created by Microsoft to store Windows icons. Every little picture you click on, whether it's the Recycle Bin, File Explorer, Chrome, or your favorite game, is usually an ICO file. What makes ICO different is that one file can contain multiple versions of the same icon in different sizes and resolutions. Without ICO files, your desktop icons would often look blurry or stretched whenever you resize them. It may not be the most exciting image format, but it quietly keeps millions of Windows computers looking clean and organized every single day. SVG, short for Scalable Vector Graphics, was introduced in 2001, and it works completely differently from every other image format we've talked about so far. Instead of storing millions of tiny pixels, SVG stores mathematical instructions that tell your computer how to draw shapes, lines, and curves. That means no matter how much you zoom in, the image stays perfectly sharp. That's why brands like Google, Spotify, and countless others rely on SVG for many of their graphics. The only downside is that SVG isn't built for detailed photographs. Try saving a selfie as an SVG, and your computer would have to recreate every little detail using mathematical shapes, which isn't exactly practical. And that's every major image format explained. From RAW to SVG, each one was built for a different purpose, which is why they're all still around today. But I'm curious, which of these formats do you use the most? Let me know in the comments. And if there's another tech topic you want explained, drop that below too.